Okay, it's 7 o'clock and it's time to start the lecture or the open house for critical issues in criminal justice, J490 for the fall quarter. My name is Richard Wright, and I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be providing some information that will help you this entire quarter. So I will be covering that information. Okay. Okay, so anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get started right now. Share my screen. Okay, you will see my instructor information at the top, my name, my phone number, and a statement that says feel free to phone, text, or email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. And so I want to make sure that you understand that's how you can reach me, that's how you can find me if you need any help. I encourage you to use that resource. And I also want to remind you that your written assignments all should involve research. Here it is right here. And the textbook should not be the sole source of any of your written assignments. And if you do, you'll lose 2 points. Also, all written assignments should be in APA format. Citations in the body and references at the end, and also have a cover sheet as well. You'll see that information all over as well. And then I provide some information to help you deal with peer mentoring and also tutoring. If you should understand that tutoring is not just for students who are having problems, but tutors can also help students as well to perform better. Our student tutors consist of students who are on the honor roll and dean's list, and so they can be very helpful to you in terms of getting your assignments completed. Then there's a guide for student success that I encourage you to take a look at yourself, as well as questions about the library, a writing guide as well. And then finally, this helps you with your research for your papers, the library resource center as well. And then there's information about tutor assisting. We present 2 scenarios that can help you. Take a look at those. And then finally, the rubrics. The rubrics that we present, first for the course project, they are attached. So all you do is copy and paste the link, put in your browser, and you can see it. I also emailed you the rubrics as well. And then your written assignments, other than your course project, also the guidelines and rubrics for that as well. So you want to take a look at those. Now, I would use my rubrics as a guide to what is expected to be included in each assignment. The module tells you some stuff, but the rubric breaks it down specifically for how I'm going to grade your papers. And then finally, your discussion posts. As you already know, discussion posts are due on Tuesday night, your initial post by 11:59 p.m. and then your reply post by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So it's very important that you take a look at those. be aware that posts that are late, you will lose at least 1 point. And when you lose that 1 point, you're going to find your grades are going to be adversely affected. So you want to make sure that you get that done as well. And so let me pause this a minute. Ann, will you tell Julian to turn that down? Okay. I'm recording. So you want to make sure that you do the discussion posts on time, because for each day that's late, you will lose a point all the way until the end of the week. And if you submit your discussion post after the form is in it, you will not get points for that. Your live lectures with the open house taking place right now until 8 p.m. Central Standard, or anytime before that. And then every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. beginning next Thursday, the 12th, weeks 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And then there's some helpful resources that I have here on this link. If you click on these, they will help you with a one-sheeter that gives you guidance as well. The same information almost is over here, but just so you'll see, the peer student, the peer mentor will be able to assist you as you complete this. Julian? Yes, he did very. I can hear it in my earphones, which means it comes on the recording. So you have the peer mentor, and peer mentors are just what it says here, students that can help you and guide you, kind of like a big brother, that kind of thing. And then advisors, and then I already shared with you about the library, the success guide, and also some answers concerning the library, and then your writing guide as well. So you can take those resources as well and copy them up. Then the writing process will take place there. So okay. And then finally, we have the APA requirements that I want to bring to your attention as well. So I already talked to you about that. Very important. Now we take a look at the welcome announcement that I sent you. I recommend that you follow through reading that very carefully and do the things that it says on there. Reminding you about our lecture. It says from 6 to 7 p.m., but actually it's 7 to 8 p.m. I made a change in the time. So it is 7 to 8 p.m. And that's the time that I want to make sure that you come to the lectures, okay? That's what time this is taking place. And then finally, let's look at our week 1 announcement, and it says 6 as well. So it's really 7 o'clock p.m., and it's every Thursday at 7 p.m. Beginning next week. So we're going to make sure that we see each other during that time. So let's go into our course calendar. Course calendar. Here it is. Okay, and it tells you when your assignments are due. And if you click on this, it'll open it up and give you more details on it as well. And it tells you, again, your lectures, it says 6, but we actually changed it to 7 o'clock. So lectures will take place at 7 p.m. And I'm going to be changing the calendars like this. To read, so that it'll start from 7 to 8 p.m. Okay, so it'll be at 7 o'clock. Okay, so now you'll see, and each of them will be changed down the way. So everything else here is accurate. It tells you about your initial post, critical issues debate, and then your reply post due Saturday, and then your written assignment, technology changes, changing in criminal justice. You're going to make sure it's 2 pages long, and you complete the requirements according to the rubric 2 that I gave you. And then we're going to talk about the course project in a few minutes. Okay. So now let's take time and let's go over the syllabus. Again, the syllabus has my name, my phone number, and some information about me as well. And then it also provides a reminder of what I provided to you about your written assignments and what you need to do as far as your written assignments are concerned. Tells you your textbook. Tells you when your posts are due, when your written assignments are due. Tells you that this course will consist of readings, your discussion assignments. Read very carefully. Now, what I will do in this situation is, because there's only one of you, is I will submit a post by Friday that you can reply to by Saturday. So that will satisfy your reply post requirements. Your written assignments, again, are based on the things that I have provided to you. Make sure you take a look at the rubric. Written assignments want you to identify your stance, and then 2 arguments from the other side, and it sharpens your critical analysis and deepens your awareness. Anyway, I gave you a rubric. You follow that rubric. Then it came to the critical issues project, and it tells you the details about what to expect in terms of that as well. Again, those are my comments. And then there is a breakdown of how your assignments equal a total of 610 points to get 100. You have 220 points, or either 20 points each week, 10 points for initial post, 10 points for reply post, which take up 36% of the grade. Your written assignment consists of 150 points, or 24.6 of your grade. Your course project is 210. And you'll notice that between your discussions, your course project, and your written assignments, that's pretty much it. The ACAT, we'll be talking about that later. It's a assessment. It's not graded, but it's something that you'll be taking at the end, and you'll get 30 points for that. So you want to complete that at the end for a small percentage, but that totals your 610 points. Now, I want to make my announcement. My goal is to get you up here, the A or the B, but the A is my primary goal. But I will say this at the beginning. Never ask me what it takes to get a C in my class. I won't give you the answer. I don't produce C students. I produce A and B students. So I want to make sure that you understand what that is all about. So make sure that you don't ask me that question, because I don't need to help you to become an average student. My goal is to help you become the best at what you do. And by taking each subject with each of us as professors, performing well, that means that you are gathering the information, learning the information, which you'll be applying and using in your career in the future. So employers are not looking for C students. They're looking for A students primarily, followed by B students. C students, that's the last resort there. You want to excel if you're going to be productive and you want to achieve the goal of becoming whatever it is that you desire to become. Shoot for the highest grade possible. That's what I did, and it did me pretty well. Okay. These are the things that I will be doing, responding to messages. I provided my contact, providing a lecture, as well as dealing with discussions. Okay? Be sure when you communicate with me, especially when you text, and especially when you text or either leave me a message, that you let me know your name first, and then the course that you're in, and then a way I can reach back to you as well. So now we've identified in this school what we call transferable skills. And transferable skills you've been working on since you started in the college. And what we have determined is that these transferable skills are what employers are looking for in terms of hiring people. They're looking for people who can communicate well. And therefore, that's what we teach you with your reading, your writing, with your oral communication as well. Critical thinking. You already know about that. You've taken probably a class in that or reviewed the subject, but it's basically analyzing the data and the material, making it part of you, and then applying it to the issues. I'm a natural critical thinker because when I went to law school, I was trained under what they call the Socratic method. And the Socratic method taught us how to think out issues with a series of questions. And that's pretty much something that gets critical thinking going. And so what we want to teach you guys to do is to be able to think on your feet, to be able to provide solutions to problems, innovative solutions, and to justify and explain your solutions with the support of research and the information that you discover. Digital fluency. We're in an era now where everything is digital. Our books are digital. When I was in school, we didn't have any of that stuff. But now we do have it, and so I'm pretty good at being able to apply that. And so I teach my students to be very good at that kind of thing so that they can find themselves performing well in the workforce, because everything now is internet or online, and that's how people operate today. And then, you know, almost everybody has one of these things. This here is a Galaxy 7 Edge, and in here, not only do I take phone calls here, but I also have all these different apps in here, and these apps make it possible for me to even carry things like, for example, I have one app here that's called Bookshelf, and my app called Bookshelf provides, just like our textbook for the course. I've actually got the textbook right here. You can't see it, but it's in here, and it's one of many. I got all my textbooks in here, but I'm saying that it's because we're digital now, and so you're going to learn how to do that, and you're going to apply that in this class and in every class. You're doing it by taking online mode and using Blackboard. Diversity. People are going to be from all different walks of life, backgrounds in the field, especially in criminal justice. You're going to come into contact with people that are different from you, different religions, different cultures, different sexual persuasion, all kinds of issues. Your role is to learn to appreciate and respect them. Not that you have to agree, but you still have to respect them for who they are and where they are. And so you're going to work with people on your team, when we get to teamwork here, that are not going to agree 100% with you. And oftentimes, it takes differences to make changes. And someone has to sometimes be the one who goes in the other direction. Well, using diversity and teamwork, you recognize the fact that your teammate may have a different view on an issue than you. That's good, because sometimes your issue is not as good as that other person, and sometimes there are some good things in yours, and then there's some good things in the other, and combine together to reach a solution. So it's called teamwork, and you're going to be working like that with professionals, police officers, probation officers, parole officers, detectives, lawyers, forensic people. You're going to work with medical examiners, and just a wide variety, educators, and many others. And then you're going to have to do so ethically, which means you follow the procedures. You learn to do the job the way the job is supposed to be done. Your personal opinion on a lot of things may not be, but you have to follow, for example, in terms of the law. You have to be ethical. You have to follow the law, respect the law, obey the law. And so in terms of your educational experiences, we teach you how to be ethically proper here. We teach a course in ethics, but we also know that you as a student want to develop your ethical framework early on in life and carry it on across into your employment, particularly in criminal justice and law enforcement. We have a big issue because the public doesn't trust many criminal justice professionals, especially law enforcement. And so that's up to you to change that by operating according to the law. And then following the professional responsibility of the organizations that you work for as well. And then finally, information literacy, being able to take information that's very well respected and appreciated in your research and sources that you use in your writing in the future. While I'm on this, I will remind you never ever to use Wikipedia as a source of information. It is not credible, and most educators will not accept it. If you use Wikipedia in any of your assignments, you will lose points for that. So don't do it. It's not credible. Okay, then let's move right on along here. We deal with this last section I'm pretty much going to cover on the syllabus to remind you that Your assignments should be in on time. If your assignments are late for each day that they're late, you'll lose 10%. So let's say if your grade starts out and it's due on Sunday, you turned in on Monday, but you have a paper that would be 100, but for the fact that you turned it in on Monday rather than Sunday. So guess what happens? You end up losing points for that. You end up losing 10 points. So your grade goes to 90. And then let's say you do it Tuesday. Then it goes to 80. Then by Wednesday, it's a C or 70. And then by Thursday, even before you get to the 7-day deadline, you're already submitting a paper that's going to be a failing grade. So discussion posts, it says you may be asked to complete alternate assignment. We don't do that. I don't have time to do that because of the fact that I have 100 students, and it's going to be kind of hard for me to do that. So the key is to get your assignments in on time. Now, you should be aware that with discussion posts, if you submit them after the discussion forum has ended, they will not be accepted, and you won't receive a grade for that. That's actually stated in the syllabus. Let's see. Let's see, it's in here. Go down, go down. Maybe let's go to late assignments. Online discussions conclude at the end of the week. Discussions poll made after the due date for the week will not be accepted, or you'll receive a 0. So anyway, the point of the matter is back to late assignments, is that late assignments, I have the option to waive the late penalty based on extenuating circumstances. Now, I won't do that for discussion posts, but I will do it for your written assignments. But you have to let me know, and then I have to determine whether or not. I've already had a couple students to reach out to me to tell me certain things going on, and I understand. So I've worked with them already, even just at the start, to give them extensions. So my goal is to help students, not to hurt students. So I'm readily willing to cooperate and work with students. And then the academic integrity policy, that goes back to operating ethically and so forth. And then it talks about plagiarism. Now, one of the things I will tell you is I grade your papers through Grammarly. You each have a Grammarly account. You should run your papers through Grammarly every time you complete them, and make sure you check the plagiarism box. The plagiarism box will tell you how many words in your paper are from sources that you discovered from your research. If it's high, and I usually, tell students 10 to 15% is a reasonable amount. But if you go beyond 25%, then you're going to lose that percentage. So let's say you have a paper and the paper is 20 points, and you submit a paper and it Grammarly comes up 50%. Well, you're going to get 10, and that's really not a good grade, but you're going to lose the percentage for the Grammarly hit. But you have an opportunity to correct that by providing more critical thinking in your papers to offset the information that you discovered from research. That's that. So now let's come to our week 1, critical issues in criminal justice today. Again, here are the assignments, your discussion posts, and you're going to provide that. And as I already said, that at the end, by tomorrow, I will submit a reply post for you to reply to, or give you a question or something to look up. And you'll reply by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. to satisfy that concerning this. Every week I will be doing that. And then your other written assignment is a 2-page essay. Again, you have a rubric, and it tells you what you're going to write about, and you're going to make sure that you get that done. Okay? So now let's conclude by going to the lesson content. Starts out by giving you the objectives. We're dealing with technology this week, criminal justice. Again, it gives you your assignments for reading, and then there's a section, critical issues, what are they, and questions, technology and what it brings, your discussion post, your written assignment, and then introduction to what's going to be coming with your project. Okay, there's nothing written to be done with that, because under the assignment section it shows what's written. Okay, so critical issues. There are a lot of critical issues that are taking place in criminal justice today. Terrorism, international and domestic, the death penalty, juvenile justice, assisted suicide, war on drugs, security versus civil liberties, technology in prisons, gangs, identity theft, community policing and corrections, and then gender and diversity discrimination in criminal justice. And you know, with what's going on and just took place just recently in Las Vegas, you're dealing with terrorism, domestic terrorism, and things like that. There are all kinds of things that you can write about, and these are just some of them. These are some, and you could have others. But if you come up with another critical issue, you're going to let me know. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So these are some of them students have written in the past. And then there are questions that I asked, and this is a little exercise. It says the following person is responsible for determining the extent of injuries present and the cause of death. So you go down, is that the investigating officer, the medical examiner, toxicologist, and biologist, and you pick the correct one. Well, in this case, it's the medical examiner, and it tells you what that is, and you can go through. And then you do the next one, and you just keep going through each one, and it's based on your material and reading that you did for the week. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but that's what you do. And then it talks about how technology has revolutionized criminal justice. The most revolutionary technological thing that's happened in criminal justice, in my opinion, involves what they talk about here, and that is the DNA. When I first started practicing law, there was no DNA. We wish it was, because DNA, as you see here, and there are people I know who've been wrongfully convicted and that they were exonerated, going back to 1989, which was a little bit after I retired in 2000, but it was not as big or highly respected or used until in the 2000s. But people were removed from death row and has eliminated individuals as suspects, and it has made our criminal justice system better. Also, though, on the other hand, as it says here, technology has also made it more difficult. Unfortunately, criminals take advantage of these same things, like, for example, identity theft, child pornography over the internet, and high-tech larceny. As I said earlier before, I had cyber. There's a whole section on cyber crimes. I came out of law school in 1978. There was no such thing as the internet or any of that stuff, but it has made it possible for individuals to hack, as you have discovered that there are some individuals who, or some organizations who have hacked into our credit reports. using Equifax, and almost every day you'll hear of some chain store where the same thing has happened. And so the internet has opened up a can of worms that has created issues in criminal justice itself. So now, let's go through and let's talk about the project. Now, today I'm just going to talk about the project, but the project is not going to be done. It's going to be done based on the weeks. So today I'm explaining to you what's to come. And it says right here, a 6 to 8 page analytical research paper. And you're going to take a stance on a criminal justice issue, and you argue your stance on the issues, such as reducing incarceration, recidivism, or any of those things that are above or something else. Your due date for your final project is not all the way to week 10. Here's your schedule, but it's also indicated in your calendar and in your announcements as well. So notice this, that the weeks that are highlighted, these are when you actually complete assignments. So your first assignment will be due on at the end of week 2, where you're going to choose your critical issue. So you're going to satisfy what the rubric says and what the requirements are in terms of completing that critical issue and providing that information to me on a timely basis. Week 3, you're going to prepare your outline and thesis. I provided you information that helps you to be able to do that. And week 4, you're going to submit your rough outline and thesis, and it tells you what I'm looking for as well. Then week 5, introduction and revised thesis is going to be submitted. Week 6, you don't have to submit anything. Week 7, you're going to submit an annotated bibliography. I've supplied you information to guide you in terms of preparing, if you have not ever, an annotated bibliography. We also have resources in the module or in our classrooms that help you as well. Then on week 8, you submit a rough draft of your paper. And then I will make comments, and then you will revise it, and then week 10, you'll present your final project. Just make sure you look at your rubrics, because it'll tell you what to do. Now, as you work on your paper, remind that I'm looking for APA, citations, references. I'm looking for paragraphs, spelling, grammar, punctuation, research taking place throughout the paper, using at least four reliable resources on the internet. The library, I already told you where you could find some of those. Or you can go to your own local library. But many of you find more, can find more than 4, but it's a minimum of 4. And then make sure you have APA citations, citing your research sources, and the guidelines and style. And I already told you a lot about APA and where you can find it. Each assignment is evaluated and graded independently. Each of these, the week 2 assignment, the week 4, the week 5, the week 7, the week 8, and then finally the final is graded independently. And it says your instructor will provide criteria, which I already have, and I shared that with you. Okay, if you have any other further questions, feel free to reach out to me. Now, that's it. Now, I want to share with you very quickly here a little bit of information about yours truly. And it goes back to why I say at the end of each announcement, adversity is a springboard to success. When I was 7 years old, which was 60 years ago, living in the city, Chicago, on the west side of Chicago, my mother and father had 5 girls and 1 boy, and that was me, and I was the oldest one. Well, Memorial Day of 1957, a a guy who had been rooming with my parents. It was a roomer. He and my father got into a fight. I would later discover, as I got older, that the fight had to do with the fact that he was having an affair with my mother, and he confronted the guy about it. Well, the guy took out a knife and stabbed my dad right here in the forehead, and my dad died. The guy did not go to jail. He ended up continuing to live in the house with us. He used to beat my mother after that, and sometimes he would end up going to jail for a short period of time. She would go back and get him and bring him back. She ended up having 2 more children by him who were both girls, and she would never leave him. So it was pretty bad. So, and it's bad enough to have to live in the house with the man you know who killed your father. And then she never married him. So then in 1962, we moved from the area of Chicago on the west side to Gary, Indiana, in a nice area. And he moved there then. Well, in 1963, after my 7th sister was born earlier in late in 60, let's see, she was born in 62. Yeah, 62. And so she was still little. And in Memorial Day of 1963, he killed my mother. My mother being gone, we had to go and stay with an aunt. It didn't work very well for a while, so another aunt came, and she took us to an area and had a house built in the south side of Chicago. And my 7 sisters and I lived there. So I was 14 when we moved there. I would find out several things. First of all, number one, the uncle that I was living with, he wanted me to take his name. I didn't want to because I was the only one who could carry on my dad's name. And so we had some friction. And so then, ultimately, what ended up taking place is that my mother, my aunt that I was living with, she couldn't do much. So I got tired, so I heard a person on the radio that I liked, and I went and found her and asked her to be my mother. She became my friend, and then years and years and years and years and years later, she legally adopted me. But that's years and years later. I was actually a lawyer and grown by the time she actually did the thing legally. But here's what I'm going to tell you. So back to when I was 14, living with my aunt, I would find out that the man who killed my mother and father pled guilty, and that he was going to be sentenced to 10 years. 10 years. But I would quickly find out that 10 meant 5. And that for good behavior, he would end up serving 3.5 years. And ultimately, that's what he served. Well, I was very troubled about that. So when I get troubled, I ask questions. So I asked the question of a number of people. Then finally, someone came and told me. They said, well, that's the way the legal system operates, and that's the way it is. So I found out that there's these people called lawyers. So I went and talked to a librarian at my school. I was in 8th grade, and I got a book out that was a very small book on lawyers. And I took that book home and read it overnight. And the next day, anybody I met, I introduced myself as Richard Wright, and I'm going to become a lawyer. Well, as it was, that was what I wanted to end up doing. So I went through high school and prepared to leave, living with my aunt, and I graduated when I was 19. I had just turned 19. So one of my friends, his mom and dad let me come and stay with them, but they also had a friend that they knew who worked in a big law firm in downtown Chicago. And she got me a job. working as a messenger in the mailroom of this big law firm. And at the same time, I began to take classes at a junior college at night. And I didn't have a car, so I was traveling on 2 buses and a train, L train, to get to work and to school. So anyway, I got married right after that in 1970, and I was still in my first year of college, junior college. And then a year later in 71, followed by 72, I had 2 kids. So it got tougher, but I still pressed on. Every semester I took 12 to 16 hours of courses and stayed on the dean's list and the honor roll because I was determined. And I would have to be at work in the morning at 8:30, and then I'd get off at 4, and at 4:30 I had to be in class. So I would rush across from one side of the downtown area with 2 armloads of books. And the lawyers gave me a document carrier, 2 document carriers, and I had my books in there to help me. But I still had to carry these books with me. So I would go to class and get out at 10:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night, and then I would get on the train and I would read and study on the train. I would often fall asleep at the end of the line. They would wake me up. They got to know me, and that's how I did it. And then I'd go home and continue my studying, grab a little bit to eat, study some, and then go back to sleep, and then get back up. I did that. I persevered through that. And in the meantime, the law firm, recognizing that I had told them when I first got there that I was going to be a lawyer, they took me up on it by moving me up through the ranks. They came to me and asked me if I would be interested in becoming a file clerk in the law firm. I gladly welcomed the position. It was a little bit more money. It wasn't big money, but it was an opportunity to climb up more and learn. And so then, finally, it reached a period of time where the law librarian, something happened to him, and they came and tapped me again. And so I became the law librarian. And then, while I was a law librarian, not only was I the custodian of the books, but I decided to learn how to research and teach myself how to write memos. Well, they found out that I could do that, and I had that skill, and they hired someone to do my job and turn me into what they then called a law clerk, which today is called a paralegal. In the meantime, I was making my way through. I had left junior college and got accepted at a 4-year institution called Roosevelt University, studying political science. And so I continued to stay on that dean's list, honor roll, and I was active in a lot of things at the school as well. But the point of the matter is I kept pressing on. There were times we ran out of money. I remember a period when we had no lights. We had to study by candlelight. I was in school. My first wife at that time was in school also. Well, ultimately, I would end up reaching the point where it's time for me to select a law school. And so it was told to me that I should apply to 3 law schools. And I had my mind set on Northwestern University School of Law. And I was already cautioned that was reaching out there. That was a hard and tough position. I already had family members and other people who told me that I was probably starting, at a tough spot, and that I might get some disappointment. But I didn't hear that. I didn't accept that. And I didn't tell them. I just continued pressing forward. Well, anyway, of course, what happened is that I got accepted in Northwestern University School of Law. I wasn't put on a wait list. I was accepted into the class of 1978, started in 1975. When I got to law school, at that time, the person I was married to, a teacher, that was the income. But what happened is that particular year, It was the first time in history that the Chicago Public Schools, which he was working at, went on strike, and we had no money. So with all that pressure on me, I reached a stage in law school where I couldn't work. They had already told me it worked. They didn't have a night school, so I had to reach a point where I said I might leave. But there was one professor, and she said to me, come meet her in her office, and I did. And she said, you want to quit, huh? I says, yeah, that is not an option. She says, I'm going to stand in front of this door, and you're not going to get past me until you decide you're going to stay. Well, I took her up on that and stayed, and then the rest was history. I graduated. But let me say this, that while I was there, one of my classmates, who was a year in front of me, his dad was a distinguished criminal lawyer, well respected, and then he was going to become a judge, appellate court judge later, but a trial court judge first. Anyway, he had a conversation with me about what happened to me in my life. He took me over to the criminal courts building and helped me find information to clarify what really happened on the record with my parents. He also made a suggestion to me, which kind of like, was that you should become a criminal defense lawyer. You will learn more about the system rather than becoming a prosecutor. So I took him up on that, and I became a criminal defense lawyer and left a big law firm because it was a corporate law firm. I ended up doing pretty good. I became a very well-respected criminal defense lawyer. I did radio. I did TV, giving advice. I did all that kind of stuff. I had a show called Know Your Rights, which was a play on words after my last name, and WRIGHTS. In fact, that was the phone number to my office, WRIGHTS, which is 974-4487. Well, so I was doing pretty good with that. And so then I ran into a problem. My first wife and I, because I had some personal issues that I hadn't dealt with from my childhood, we ended up splitting up. And then I got divorced, and we had 3 kids at that time. The first 2 were born when I was in college. The last one was born right after I graduated from law school 39 years ago. And she today, my other 2, they graduated. One became a teacher and one became a criminal psychologist. But the 39, she's 39. She is now a student at Rasmussen, going back to school to get her educational career going, medical billing and coding. So they learned, they saw, and they began to follow up. Well, anyway, the point of the matter is that I found myself in a situation where I got married the second time, and then I had another child. That child, by the way, is now a college graduate as well. But here's the point, is that her mother became the village president or mayor of a small town in the south suburbs of Chicago, and she asked me to be the village attorney. So I took her up on it, but I told her I wouldn't take the job unless I could carry a gun. Well, it was clear to me, based on what she said, that I couldn't do it just that way. That would be illegal. But what I could do is go to the police academy. And so I was up for that. And I went to the police academy and became a part-time police officer. I became the village prosecutor. I became the right-hand person in internal affairs because the chief had to step down because of some criminal activity. And so the new chief came in and needed someone who would handle the internal affairs, and I became the investigator for that. And I discovered that the feds were investigating the department and everything. So I was involved and around for all of that stuff. So anyway, I ended up doing that from 89 to 93. And then after that, I ended up about a year or so later after that, finding out my second wife wanted to go with somebody else, so I let her go. So then I met the young lady that I'm married to now, 23 years now we've been married. Well, she and I have 4 kids. My oldest is 22, and the next one will be 18, and then the son who's 17, and then a 9-year-old baby girl. You see those on the picture in the student lounge. Anyway, my point being to you is this, is that I worked in all those fields, but I was also moving forward all the time. In 2000, between that time I went to seminary, 91 and 93, and I got involved in ministry. So in 2000, I was done pretty much with law and ran some businesses and taught special education, which I discovered like in the last year or two that I had an impact on several students, especially 2 of them. One who became, she was pretty tough to deal with, but she is now a criminal justice graduate, and she contacted me, let me know that I was an influence to that, and that made me feel good to realize that my life affected someone to cause them to go in a positive direction when they were headed in a negative direction. Well, anyway, in 2011, someone told me about a job at Rasmussen College, and so I had never heard of Rasmussen, so I did some research. I found out that they were a credible school. I found out that the former president of Northwestern University was on their board of directors, and that was good enough for me. And so in 2011, I took a job teaching business law, and I told them quickly, that was residential, by the way, and I told them that I was a criminal justice person. So they ended up giving me a job as an adjunct professor teaching criminal justice. Well, I continued working in that, and then finally there was an opening for a full-time position, state program coordinator of the School of Justice Studies for the state of Illinois, which meant that I would become responsible for the criminal justice program in Illinois at the Romeoville campus, at the Aurora campus, Mokina Tinley Park campus, and at the Rockford campus. I got selected for that job and began teaching 3 classes then, so I was full-time then, and working with these other campuses. Then the school made a change, and they did away with program coordinators for the School of Justice Studies, and we ended up, they ended up turning me into give me 2 additional classes. So I teach a minimum of 5 classes every quarter. So since that time, I have impacted many students. Students have reached out to me for additional classes with me. I've been able to help students. I've been able to write letters of recommendation for students and continue to encourage students. And so I said all of this to say that that is why when you see at the end of every announcement that I post, the weekly announcement that is, adversity is the springboard to success. I have lived it, and I've been there, done that, and I know how to help you. I know when you run into adverse situations, how to be empathetic with you, how to help you to process through and continue to move towards your goal of becoming whatever you want it to become. And so I wanted to take the time to share that with you. And so that I won't be going over for the rest of the quarter, but you'll have the information here. So having said all of that, I'm going to say good night. And again, feel free to reach out to me whenever you need to. Good night.